now I'm going to take this first, this part of the board, over, and down, and just trim off the excess. Just like that. Since I have this, I'm actually going to measure out the outer edge too, and it's supposed to be a little bit longer because of that's how stuff works. I'm going to make it, I don't know, an inch or two longer. About that much. A little over an inch, I think. The good thing about this is that it stretches a little bit. So, worst case scenario, I can just, play with it a little bit. So, I'm going to take my clamp. Okay, I got it hung up. Those hung up. That's drying right there. A little out of frame. Then I'll come back and put it all together. Okay. Okay. So see, even though I measured it, it still came a little over just because it was not tight to it. So I'm using my thumb and my middle finger and my index finger. My middle finger and thumb are going on either side, and my index finger is just putting just a little bit of pressure so it sticks. And then come around just to make sure that it's, even. When I've decided that it's even, see it follows just a little bit. I let it adhere. But I also don't want to put too much pressure in case I have to pull it off. Look, I didn't even need that extra little bit. But that's basically it. It's good. Another point for padding is length, size, basically. If you're the more weapon you have, the more foam you have, the heavier it gets, the more padding it probably requires. But on the other hand, padding also adds weight. So you got to kind of find a good balance of, something that's heavy but light, but padded enough. And it's not easy, but it's doable. Okay. Another note for foaming up is based on your group, because whatever group or buffer group that you want to go to, check with them probably first and figure out what their build guidelines are. Maybe they can help you with it, or just direct you to their information, and then that way you can have a better idea of what you need to build. This is just basic techniques on how to use DEF and foaming up weapons to made of a Combat Club standards. So it may not be applicable to all groups. Now, to do the handle, okay, you're going to want the hot glue or epoxy or whatever you decide to use. I've got nylon cord and electric tape. Now, the electric tape is just to wrap on the outside because I like not only the look, but I like the feel that it gives. It's sort of leather-ish. And that just, it feels nice in my hands, so I like it. But if you want to use duct tape, or if you don't want to use tape at all, that's totally up to you. I'm using this blue nylon cord because I have it. I've had it for years, and I've never used it. It's still pretty new. Now, you can use tie line or string or other, thicker rope than this if you want. Again, it's all up to you. The purpose of the rope is to wrap around this to kind of bulk it up, because this, is wieldable. If your hand gets hot, the hot glue heats up again, and then it can all slip off and fall apart. So it holds the chopsticks in and bulks it up to give a nicer feel in the hand. And then, just because of the way, it creates these little ridges which help with grip. If my hot glue gun is nice and heated, I'm going to put a bead, a nice bead of hot glue right along the top here. And I'm going to wrap the end around that hot bit, sort of wrap it over it, wrap the nylon over itself. I wrap the tip over itself and the hot glue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a pretty big bead, and I'm going to wrap it in such a way that it pushes the bead down and kind of spreads it in between the nylon, and also has more connection to the fiberglass itself. I'll see how one does. I might go down and then back up, but we'll see. So I decided not to go all the way back up, but it was a little thin down at the bottom. See how it's still pretty round. Yeah, that feels good. Now, the electric tape also has a dual purpose. One, it holds down the rope so that doesn't come undone, and also I guess three purposes. Holds the rope down. I personally like the grip. It gives kind of a leathery feel, and also looks a little nicer than just plain rope to me. But that's all up to personal preference. Now, before we wrap the rope with the tape, I'm going to tape up, I'm going to use duct tape, I'm going to tape up the palm hole just so that the foam isn't exposed. Too much sunlight or too much direct impact, it starts to degrade more rapidly than if it's got some protection on it. So I'm going to use duct tape, but first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do some shaping real quick, just to, if I can. Okay. A bit nicer shape, I think. So I'm going to take my duct tape and I'm going to sort of measure it out. Okay. Now you can do a little bit of compression, but don't do too much, because that'll also wear down the foam. I'm going to start on the side. Come down. That's the obvious reason I'm doing this before I do the wrapping of the handle. It's so that the seam, so that these edges down here at the handle will get wrapped in that electric tape. Okay, then I'm going to take, so I did across, and then I'm doing the angle first because I want this one to be the last one, because I think that'll look nicer. And now I'm going to wrap the handle. So, take the electric tape, wrap around with or against the grain of the rope. It doesn't really matter. It's all up to your personal preference. And I like to split the difference when I come back over when I overlap. I like to overlap about halfway. You want to pull it a little bit taut, but not to the point where you're overly stretching it. Okay, and your last couple inches, you want to go just not super tight, even less tight, and just sort of let it, don't stretch it at all, really. Seam of this duct tape is all covered out, so it looks a little bit nicer. It's not my best work, homo-wise. You can see it's a little ugly. Now, if you're going to use a sock, you take your sock, find your little toe seams, and slip it on like you would slip it on your phone. Just like that. Okay. If you're going to use duct tape for your blade, the most important thing is not to over compress it. The second most important thing is to don't double up on the duct tape on the edge of the blade. Measure a little over halfway. Take your strip and just sort of place it down. It helps to have a measurement and measure this all out at once. But if you notice, see, this one is a little more rounded now than this side. It's because it's a little compressed. Okay, so I'll take this one, do the same thing. And the reason you go more than halfway is so that when it overlaps, it sort of locks itself into place, because instead of just the foam, it's now taped to more duct tape. The reason you don't double down on your duct tape is because it turns one flimsy piece of duct tape into a more solid piece of duct tape, which means that when you hit, it's going to hit harder because the impact, it's not going to absorb as much force. It's going to push it right back, so it's going to hurt a little bit more. I'm just going to use the sock, but if you're going to use duct tape, basically you do the overlapping all the way up the blade, and then down around the top. Alright, thanks for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please like and subscribe to stay tuned for more if you're digging my vids. Stay tuned for more.